Thank you for listening to the Matt's Movie Reviews podcast, available on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, and Stitcher. Also, please follow Matt's Movie Reviews on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Reddit, Instagram, and MeWe. And of course, be sure to visit mattsmoviereviews.net for the latest reviews, top 10 lists, and more. Now, on to the show.
So, Nick, how long have you lived here?
A few weeks.
Weeks in that cabin?
I like it. It's quiet and it's...
Hidden?
You come here today to talk about a little project, how it's moving along.
Who are they? What do they want?
I encourage you to tell me exactly what you know.
This guy's a nightmare for everyone now. He was his best killer. He sent at least 3-4 guys after him. None of them come back.
Did I find you?
My husband sold his soul to the devil.
The debt your husband owes and what you and your family owe.
I have to let them use my land.
Nothing sexier than a woman who runs a tight ship.
Amelia here has been running this business like a little empire.
Can't do this.
I can do whatever the hell I want.
Hey. You all right? There are two options here. You're going to get arrested with them, or they're going to kill you and your son.
Get in the truck.
You don't touch him.
You're going to have to deal with it.
I am not going to kill anyone.
I didn't say you.
This is not going as swimmingly as we had hoped.
I was just passing through, and now I think I'll stay a while.
I'm gonna put them both in the ground.
Is it done?
It's done.
Hello and welcome to the Matt's Movie Reviews podcast. I am your host, Matthew Pejkovic, and this is episode number 423. This episode, I'm doing something different. I'll be talking about two different films, shot back-to-back, set within the same world with one central character played by the great Neal McDonough. I'm talking about Red Stone, now available on digital, and Boon, which releases on digital and on demand on April 1st. Two crime thrillers in which a hitman atoning for his sins takes on the criminal underground. Joining me to talk about Red Stone and Boon is the director of the film, Derek Presley, and producer, Jason Starne. Derek and Jason, I thank you so very much for joining me today.
Thank you, Matthew. Appreciate you having us.
Yeah, thank you very much.
So, Derek, I'm going to start with you. I just have to ask, the character of Boon, creating Boon, how did you come up with this character? I know the last time we spoke, we kind of briefly touched on it, but I'm just really curious, how did he kind of come up in your world building process?
Well, originally, if you want to go back further, we were on another film before Red Stone called Whitetail, and the young man that was playing the central character in that, Dash Melrose, impressed me so much. I was just having such a good time with him, and I was like, man, this guy is really good. That I asked him on that set, I said, hey, I'm thinking about writing a kind of an old school classic thriller of a, kid on the run from a gangster. And I was like, you'd be the main character. Do you want to, what do you think of that? And he's like, yeah, that'd be great. So a few months later, fast forward, we're in post and we're working. And now we're all talking as a group with Alex Blackman, Garrett Schwint, Jason's, myself, the next movie, and Austin Williams, who's our UPM producer, one of our other producers. And I said, well, I have this idea. I was like, let me, what do you guys think? And they liked the idea, and I wrote it. And it was really kind of coming from the young man. If you watch Red Stone, he's kind of the main character.
Yeah.
In the original cut, Neal didn't come into play until 30 minutes into the movie. You didn't see his face. He's this guy comes in, boom, and then he kind of takes, and then the movie shifts, and which is kind of unorthodox. Most time, classic films, they always say you introduce the guys right off the bat, and I don't believe any of that stuff. But we that was where it came from, was really kind of figuring out who Dash was, and then there was his character and trying to figure out, okay, how Motley, there's so many characters in movies now. Like there's so many to talk about. And we got that figured out. And then with Boone, I wanted them to have a similar journey, and one loses somebody dear to them in a horrific way, and then on the flip side of this, the other person who's a hitman who's used to seeing violent things, he loses his family in a very real world way. I don't know, no, they're not murdered, they're killed in a car accident, but they're both going through loss, and they're traveling down this parallel journey throughout this one day. And all of that really helped me with Boone, as far as like he was supposed to be more of less of an assassin and more of a henchman in the original incarnation. And that was easy, because that was like, you've got a kid here and you've got a henchman here. It's kind of a chump, kind of a, I've always said he's got like a spaghetti stain on his shirt. He's the guy that's outside when the boss is eating dinner. They're always the first ones to die. That was originally his character. And he's been tasked to find this kid. And a long-winded answer, but I'll be really quick about it. Basically, when we got Neal McDonough, everything changed. And so that it changed, and we started that. Then we rewrote the character we put in some Western tendencies in there and some old, McDonough's mannerisms, and we kind of rewrote that a little bit to make him more of the quintessential hitman.
Yeah. Jason, when it comes to casting Neal McDonough, what's that process like? I mean, has he seen Whitetail? Does he, do you just send the script and kind of go through more conventional means? Because he really has taken on this role to such an extent, like, I'll get into it later, that he's actually like co-writing Boone. I mean, what was it like approaching him for this movie? Was he someone that you guys always had in mind to play the character?
Oh, that's a great question. And no, he wasn't. It's a funny story how we got to that, how we got to Neal. And I was just with him last night, and we were talking, and I always say this. I said, I always thank them, him and Reve, who we've been working with now, for taking a risk with us and coming to do Red Stone. And he replies back with, well, thank you for taking the risk with me. And I'm like, oh, gosh, what are you talking about? But yeah, he's such a great guy. But the way it came about was we were working with a casting director, and we were starting to put this film together. And like, he was never in the purview. Like, he was just like a big name, and he just really never came up to us. But we had a couple guys we went out to that passed, and the original role for him was, we were looking for that star, right? You need that star power to help boost the film, help get it sold, obviously, when we get it made.
Yeah.
And so we were looking for a star. I wouldn't say somebody that would just like come in and out, but we were looking for somebody that could come in and work for like 3 days. I felt like that was what our budget could afford. And we got to Neal. It's like somehow Katrina Cook, our casting agent, she's like, hey, I was in touch with an agent, and one of Neal's agents, and she said, hey, Neal McDonough's interested. And Derek and I were like, nah, no way, right? And this was for the role of Jed Haywood. Mm-hmm. So if you can imagine, I mean, you've seen the film, so who's Jed Haywood is Michael Cutlitz plays his character. But we were going out to Neal for Jed, and once he got the script, he just loved the character of Boone. He loved Nick Boone. And Derek and I got on a Zoom with him, and he said, hey, I like Jed. Jed's great. But I really like this. I really like Boone. I don't know why I'm trying to sound like Neal now, but I really like Boone. And he said, if there's any way that, we could make, I could come in and play Boone. He said, but I don't want to take any roles away from anybody or anything like that. If you guys already cast, and we had already cast Boone with, and like Derek explained earlier, the henchman, Billy Blair, was our original Nick Boone. And then Jason Douglas, who's a sheriff, he was our original Hutch, and they were already in the roles. And so we had to call Billy, and it's like, man, let me back up a little bit, because this is even funnier. It's like, well, Neal, we'd love to have you as Boone, but, Boone is like 16 out of the 18 days we shot, maybe 17 days shooting. It's like, there's no way we can afford like, we're going in thinking there's just no way. We have a budget for somebody that would come in for 3 days, right? A star. And he says, I don't care. He said, I really love it. If there's any way to move things around without people losing jobs or anything. And so, yeah, we call Billy and we call Jason, and they're such troopers, such great actors, professionals. They're like, yeah, we'll do what's best for the project. And so Billy moves into Hutch's role. Jason Douglas becomes a sheriff, and I think the cast just organically really came together, the story, because I love Hutch, I love Billy, and I love how Nick created this Nick Boone character. So that's how that happened.
Derek, when it comes to the look of the character, what's really interesting when it comes to Neal McDonough as an actor and as a person, you mentioned before kind of like Western kind of conventions in regards to the hat and everything. There's also kind of like a classic kind of film noirish kind of thing about him as well. You can really see Neal McDonough, like if he went back in the time machine and appeared in the movies in the 40s and 50s, he'll fit in that kind of mold really well. In regards to that, in regards to the way he looks on screen, the way he dresses, the hat, for example, is that stuff that's in the script, or is that stuff that he kind of brings to the table, or something you guys kind of talk about as you're fleshing out the role and you're making it a little beefier and a little bigger for the screen?
Well, the outfit minus the hat was, that was from day one. And he loved that. It was, I pitched him, I said, you're going to be Lee Marvin in Point Blank. One of my favorite films of all time. I said, which in turn, other filmmakers throughout the years have pretty much borrowed that same look, the skinny black tie and the jacket and all that. Yeah. Quintessential gangster. And I think Neal, being a guy who he looked at Texas as like, he's been to Texas before, but he was just like, it takes place in Texas. And there was something about that made him say, I want to wear a fedora. And it was not me. And I'll be honest, I was not happy about that at first. I was like, I love your white hair, man. You're my Lee Marvin, man. What you talking about? You're my, yeah. So then we kind of came around to it, and he was insistent on it. And then we put the hat on. We thought, well, it is pretty unique, and it does have a norm aspect to it. And that's one of my favorite genres of all time. And it was basically the outfit that we had planned, and then we put the hat on him, and he kind of took over his own. It just became his own thing, and he, carried that over to the next film, obviously with Boone, and it fit really well. And that was all Neal. That was him. He was like, we're in Texas. It's not. I honestly don't think, Matt, that if we were filming this in downtown Los Angeles, he would have even said it. It was the fact that we were in this small little Texas town, and he had a lot of really good reasons. That's something about Neal, is he always backs up what he brings to the table. So I asked him why, and he's like, well, he's like, I'm a hitman kind of guy. I want to keep my face covered sometimes. You don't want to see me coming, and it's in Texas, and it's this and that and the other, and so he justified it enough, And then when we got there, we didn't have the fedora on set, and Jason had to run around like a crazy man to get it.
That hat almost killed me.
Yeah, it was really crazy, and it had to be the perfect one. Neal's very particular.
How many hats do you think you went for?
One.
Just the one.
He still has the hat.
It's the same hat. We carried it on to the Boone. He has it, and if he ever makes if we make another one, he'll wear it again. It's his hat. It's his thing, So, but it was, that was really it, and it is really good. And you're right, by the way. I mean, he just looks like he steps out from the 60s and 70s and even earlier than that. His face, the way his structure, the way he's made up, his everything about him, his voice. He just has that classic actor feel. And we let him run with it. It was great. It was like Jason said earlier about the casting. It was organic. It's a happy accident that we got him in the role of Boone, and he took it over. I mean, it's his now. So.
Jason, something that's really interesting in regards to the character and the actor that's playing him is that, and it's something I don't see often in screen. Boone is a Catholic in the movie. He carries a rosary around with him in Red Stone. That part of it's much more fleshed out, not to a point where it's kind of like a distraction or anything, but it's much more prevalent in Boone. The film does deal with themes of redemption, atonement, confession, the second film especially. Was that kind of like Neal's idea? Because I know that he is a Catholic in real life. I myself am a practicing Catholic as well. And the reason why I'm so kind of curious about it is because I don't see that often. Usually when it's a Catholic in a film, it has to do with like some type of demonic possession film or something like that, kind of like really tropey kind of stuff. It's different here, though. Is that something that was in the script, or is that something that Neal kind of brings to the table?
I think that's more something that developed along the way, and that is something that Neal brings to the table. And he's a devout Catholic, and he's not ashamed of it. He doesn't hide it, and I'm proud of him for that. So I think it shows, right? It comes through. It's not like he had to go learn anything about that. And I think Neal plays this character struggling, and like you mentioned earlier, atonement, and just it's real life, like what we all deal with. We all have these struggles and stuff. So it really developed more, I think, from Neal. I'd have to go back to Derek. There's too many scripts I've been reading lately, especially from Derek. But I don't think, Derek, there was any. I mean, it was written in there, but I don't think early on, because it
Red Stone
on the way. Yeah.
No, Red Stone, Matt there was no mention of it. As a matter of fact, in the movie, there's not really there's no dialogue. It's really just that
shot.
Just that shot of the rosary. Yeah. That was all. That was Neal. He said, "I'd like to pull that out to show them that I'm a man of faith, and I'm trying to think about this and all that." And I was like, "That's great."
Yeah, and it adds to that struggle that he's going through in Red Stone with what he's tasked to do, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and Boon was from the beginning when we had it in post, when Red Stone was in post, and Neal was wanting to do a sequel about that character. That was like from the beginning with I wrote 6 scenarios, and I pitched it to him and Jason, and I said, which one? And Neal was very much about the one about up in Washington. That was all that stuff's we can talk about that later. But that was from the beginning, was like, yes, it's going to be about the man trying to atone. That was the main word. It's atoning for your sins, and then having a different person in there, a preacher, a Baptist preacher that he stays with,
The Matt's Movie Reviews podcast is brought to you by 80s Tees. 80s Tees is an online retailer of licensed t-shirts and pop culture gear from your favorite movies, TV shows, cartoons, video games, comic books, and musicians. Celebrate your inner 80s nerd and click on the link in the show notes below to get the raddest retro t-shirts delivered to your door. The Matt's Movie Reviews podcast is brought to you by Loot Crate. Founded in 2012, Loot Crate is the worldwide leader in fan subscription boxes. Loot Crate partners with industry leaders in entertainment, gaming, sports, and pop culture to deliver monthly themed crates, produce interactive experiences in digital content, and film original video productions. No matter what you geek out about, Loot Crate has a subscription box for you. To get your very own exclusive collectibles, apparel, and gear delivered to your door, be sure to click on the link in the show notes below. The Matt's Movie Reviews podcast is also brought to you by Vudu. Watch the latest movies and TV shows anytime, anywhere. No subscriptions, no contract. Enjoy stunning quality in up to 4K ultra high definition at home, and download and watch on your mobile device as well. To rent and buy from over 100,000 titles or watch thousands of movies free with Vudu Movies on us, be sure to click on the link in the show notes below. Now, back to the show. In Derek, when it comes to McDonough, the writer, in regards to Boon, how does that kind of come about? Is that a thing where, going back to being the post-production and him kind of saying, I like to approach this character again, did you already have an idea of a follow-up, or was that something that kind of like he kind of was like, let's do one more, and considering that he's so interested in it and it worked so well the first time, did you kind of say, yeah, it sounds like a good idea, or was it something, the idea already there and a kind of just an organic kind of process?
No. I mean, the idea was not there. No, it was shooting. We were shooting the film, and I think Neal mentioned it he said and in part 2 this can happen, and I was like, well, there's not going to be a part 2. It's not that kind of movie. There's not a part 2, And he said, yeah, but if there was, we do this. And then throughout the whole shoot of Red Stone, I was kind of fighting it. I was like, no, I mean, of course I would love to work with Neal again. I was Jason and I were mulling over ideas of other things. And Neal was like, no, I think we can really do part 2. Then he called us when we were in post-production, and he said, I believe his agent was actually the one, him and his agent got on the phone and said, so, we're going to do this because we think we can get it going and we want to shoot it in Washington State. I was like, huh. So you see, I already had I was given, the criteria basically of it's going to be in Washington and we got to do it now. So for myself, I said, okay, look, I'm not interested in bringing in and doing a direct sequel. There's nothing, that's not that kind of movie, So I said, so let's play around and let's put him in another genre altogether. Let's instead of Texas, since we're in Washington, it's going to be blue and it's going to be cold and it's going to be full frame as opposed to anamorphic and things like that. Like Garrett Swint, my cinematographer, and I and Jason, we all discussed the technical aspects, how different everything has to be different from Red Stone. Mm-hmm. Red Stone was a more of a gangster thriller, than it was an action film. There's not that much action in it. And Boone, we're going to ramp up the action in the end, and it's going to be a Western. It's going to be influenced by the movies that Neal and I, that we loved, growing up,
And just to confirm, Red Stone was shot in Corsicana, Texas, and Boone in Spokane, Washington. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah. We shot Red Stone. It was June, and we finished shooting July 2nd, I believe was our last day. We started June 6th, finished July 2nd. And then, like Derek said, we were in post, I think, around September. And then this thing, boom, started heating up. And we were already in scouting locations in December of the same year in Spokane. So it was pretty crazy.
Yeah, it was early. It was actually earlier than that, Jason. It was
November.
We were in audio post on Whitetail.
Oh, that's right.
And we were editing picture Red Stone, and that's when the call came in from Neal. So we were actually at the studio editing with doing sound for Whitetail, and then that's when I got the call and I stepped out to take it, and it was them saying, "When are we going to go?" And so we were like, "Okay, well let's give us a few weeks to come up with the story and everything, and then let's write the script." And then we were scouting like end of November, the beginning of November of 2020, and then December 2020, and then we shot in January.
So a question that just came to mind, Derek, when you were saying how the action was ramped up in Boone as compared to Red Stone, and I had to write it I wrote it in my notes kind of straight away when it happened. Who came up with the idea for Boone to kill a man with a spoon? I mean, you watch a lot of action films and you see, action heroes could be resourceful. They use all types of weapons. I don't think I've ever seen a spoon used in that way before. Who came up with that idea? Because it was just unexpected and brilliant at the same time.
Oh, well, I appreciate it. That was me. That was me. It was we had a butter knife at one point, and I have to say Alex Blackman, who's our executive producer, one of our executive producers, and he's a good friend of mine. He's our partner in our company. We talk every day and we're working on stuff. He told me, he was like, he needs to be a corkscrew or something like that, not a knife. Because I had a butter knife. He grabbed a butter knife off the table. And then I think we said, why not a spoon? And what's really funny about that, Matt, was when we were in pre-production, we were working on the effects side of things, and the effects people were asking me, so you want him to stab him with this end of the spoon sticking out of the top of his hand? I was like, no, I want the dull end of the spoon. And they were like, but that's why would you want the dull end? That's not sharp, it wouldn't go through. And I was like, I bet if somebody hit it hard enough and somebody's neck, they could go through. And besides, this is a Western film, it's like, we can suspension of disbelief and all that, it's okay. So they couldn't get it. They were really baffled why the other end of the spoon. And I just saw those two images of like the spoon in the bowl, he grabs it and then stabbing the dude. I mean, I thought, hopefully it's kind of fun. So
it was fun. And it's also a thing of like, you see it happens. And then you think to yourself, how much that would hurt as well, because that's not what spoons are made for. I mean, and it's a fantastic just scene there. I really dug it. I kind of like knocked me out for a loop because I just like, oh my god, what the hell happened there? It was really well done. I think what I really like about it is the walk up with it as well that Neal has. It was just so determined. He's like, I'm gonna fucking kill this guy with this spoon, and sure enough, he does it as well.
Yeah, well, I'm happy you liked it, man, because that was one of those where we were talking about that scene for a while, and we also did we laughed ourselves, which makes you question yourself. You go, why am I laughing at him? Getting bludgeoned by a spoon, but we were like, this is hilarious. It's great.
We watched too many films. I think that's a good thing.
That's right.
Jason, I want to talk to you about so we got Boone. He's kind of like the central character of both films. He's the hero of the piece, but a hero needs a strong villain, yeah? And a strong villain needs to be played by strong actors. In the case of Red Stone, you got Michael Cudlitz, who's terrific as Jed Haywood. And in Boone, you got Tommy Flanagan, who plays Mr. Fitzgerald. Both villains kind of similar in that they're kind of like masters of their own domain, crime bosses in a certain degree. But we talk about two very different actors here. And the characters themselves are very different in the way that they approach things. What's it like in getting those two actors involved? Is it a case of that having Neal attached to the role, signed on to play Boone? Does it make it easier to get actors of those kind of caliber to play opposite him and play the villains in these very kind of like good versus evil kind of like movies?
Yeah, it's certainly easier when you've got some other like cast attached like Neal, and who's also writing and producing this thing. But I'd also have to give credit to a guy named Thomas Sullivan who we work with. He's a casting director and just fantastic. So I honestly couldn't say how Tommy came about. I know his name came up, and Derek and I were both like, "Oh, yeah, like of course," because he's so menacing, right? As a gangster, and in the role that he plays in this movie. So, but I would say yes, definitely having Neal like brings that, makes it easier to get that talent attached and to jump through the hoops, and then it's all timing too, right? It's who's available these dates, is he able to get in and out, and does it fit his schedule or her schedule? So that's that for me. That's that organic part of casting and putting the movie together.
What's really interesting, Derek, about the film is that it's these movies, both Red Stone and Boone, is that they're populated with these actors who are playing like these really kind of like low-level criminals, tattooed, kind of rough-looking. You have actors like, how much I love Billy Blair. We're talking about him. We were talking about your Whitetail, your first movie, how much I love his look and such, and all these different kind of actors playing these roles. But the most menacing character out of all of them is played by Christina Okoye. She's just terrific in Boone. She plays Amelia Fitzgerald, and the Fitzgerald part of her name is kind of like deceptive because Christina in real life is Spanish, and she plays a Spanish woman in the movie. But she's kind of like, she's really menacing in Boone. She's just like something else. Like she's kind of like the enforcer, and in many ways, way more villainous than Tommy. Tommy's character of Mr. Fitzgerald, in a certain way, has a certain code, has a certain mercy about him. The character that Christina plays of Amelia, she just doesn't have that at all. What was it like casting her in that role and watching her do her thing? Because I thought she was just terrific in it, especially when she goes toe-to-toe with Neal. I thought that was a real fantastic scene.
Yeah. Christina too was amazing. She's fantastic. And she had what's funny about that is that we had written, she got in last minute. We had another actress that couldn't make that, and we weren't aware. We weren't aware of her availability or anything like that. But last minute, Christina read it. She loved it. She had a really good fight scene in the script with Neal, and she's that kind of person. You know, she wants to always kind of test herself. So for her, it was like, I get to be this Billy badass, as I say, you know, and get to whip up on people, and she gets to beat the shit out of Neal McDonough, and she loved that. So she was very excited about that. And she came in and she was doing her thing, and she added all this. She was asking me right off the bat, you know, did you want me to sprinkle in Spanish in here, you know, and did you want me to say some things? And she was amazing. I mean, especially for coming in last minute like she did. Couldn't imagine anybody else in the role now. And yeah, she just wanted to do everything herself. She put, you know, no, I believe, Jason, correct me if I'm wrong, we did have a stunt person there for her, and I don't think we even used it.
That's right. We had a stunt stand in for her, and we never used the stunt person. So yeah, because Shayna's just such a trooper, and you're right, she's so menacing in this film. I think it's her eyes. I got to see her after we were done with the movie, months after, and she still scared me. Yeah, she's great.
The other thing too is, you know, probably more to answer your question, I apologize, is that, you know, Tommy is a little bit, he's got the code, like you said, but he's also a little humorous. You know, his character's a little humorous, and he's more all business and doesn't necessarily need to kill people. If, you know, he's kind of like, whatever needs to happen happens. Christina's character, Amelia, is, you know, she is a sociopath. Hands down. And her name's Fitzgerald because she's married into the family. And there's some little, you know, Shakespearean stuff buried within that.
A little bit of color, a little bit of background, what's going on there.
It's just teeny bit. We don't really talk about too much of it, but, you know, basically her, you know, she killed her own husband and took over the family business. And so she's the daughter-in-law, but she's a sociopath, and she doesn't, you know, she'll kill you just for wanting to kill you. She's kind of the Lee Van Cleef, you know, in the movie, to be honest with you, you know. That's I kind of look at her as, you know, not for a few dollars more because he was a good guy, but good, bad, and the ugly, Lee Van Cleef, you know.
Jason, go ahead, Derek.
No, that's it. I was just saying, she was amazing, and she was definitely she's the villain. She's the real villain of the movie. So. I
think so too, and she's so like I said, like these movies with these really strong actors with particular looks, really kind of hard men, and she just kind of stands out from all of them. I think it was just really great casting and just great performance from her. Jason, I got to ask, you know, we've had the 2 movies so far with Neal playing Boon. I just have a feeling there's unfinished business. I think the potential is there for a series continuation. I assume nothing is in the works yet, but are you and Derek and the rest of the guys over at Muscular Puppies open to approaching the character again and having more Boon adventures? Because I love to see it.
Yes, that's funny. Yes, we call it B3 right now, and there's a lot of discussion being kicked around. And you know, how do we make it different? How do we make it better? How do we do things bigger? And so, yes, we're definitely open to it. Will it be the next thing we do? I don't know, but it's on the table for sure. Yes,
it won't be the next thing. We have another movie we're doing.
Yeah,
that. Is that Tonic, the next one you're working on?
Well, that's the hope. That's the plan right now. But you know, we're so lucky that there's several projects on the table, and it's a bit of a race, right? Because you have to go where things are looking like they're going to line up first. So, but we do hope Tonic, but there is another one. I don't know how much to talk about it. But, that I'm pretty excited about. So I've been reading the script as it's being written by Derek and Neal. So, and it's not Boon, but it's a good one.
We can talk about it. Neal just talked about it. So I think we
You're right. Okay.
This is already published. It's a Western. It's a full-fledged Western.
Full-on Western.
Yeah. And so we're working on that, and Neal and I are writing it. We're almost done. And then we've financing stuff's coming together, and Jason's producing and editing like he's done the other ones, and Ray and Neal are producing, and we're going to go kill a bunch of bad guys and some good guys too. So.
Well, I just love it because Derek, I said to you when I watched Whitetail, and I'm going to say it again now, having watched Red Stone and Boon, I'm a big fan of the stuff that you guys are putting together over there in Muscular Puppy. The movies themselves, I love the characters. I love the actors involved. I like the kind of like the muscular aspect about it, but I also like the depth that is in it as well, mixed in with kind of like the genre stuff as well. And I think it's all coming really together for you guys. And it's great that Neal is a part of that collective in a certain way, because he's always been, I think for a lot of people, he's always been a favorite of ours, because I don't think you've ever seen a bad Neal McDonough performance. And what I love about watching him play Boone is that he plays, he does get cast as villains a lot. In the scene, play a hero or anti-hero, like he does in your films. I think it's a treat for me. It really is. And also to see him in the lead role as well. It's just fantastic. And I can't wait to see what's next. And for everyone out there listening, you can watch Red Stone right now. It is available on digital, so you can go to places like Vudu and Amazon to check it out. And Boone releases April 1st on digital and on demand. I recommend people check out both films. Look, you can watch one or the other, but I recommend really people check out both films because it's a great complementary pieces to one another, a great continuation of story. And dare I say it, I think it's a really great birth of a new kind of like hero. Like you mentioned before, modern Western. I said the word like noir. It all kind of fits within that kind of scope, and I think it's just so very well done. And Derek Presley and Jason Starne, thank you both very much for your time today. Congratulations with the movies, and I can't wait until I see this Western and see what you guys do with Tonic as well. You know that I'm always open to watching your stuff and talk to you guys, and it's just been a pleasure to talk to you today.
Thank you, Matthew. I really, really appreciate you having us on. So, what a great podcast. Thank you for having us be part of it.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. Appreciate it, bud. This is always fun. It's always fun to get on here with you. I had a lot of fun last time, and hopefully we'll do it again. So Boone 3, by the way, I'm thinking it's probably going to be a musical because we change it up every time.
That's okay. He can, Neal can twirl that top hat around, and
Absolutely.
some like give him a cane. He's been shot enough now; he can hobble around in a cane. And stuff, so.
That's so right. Absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you for watching the Matt's Movie Reviews channel. Please subscribe for more reviews, podcast interviews, and exclusive content. Also, if you would like to request a review and support my work, please join my Patreon via the link in the description below.